Righty. So we're here to work on project stuff. And this is all you. So um, I know Travis has got something. Want to start off with what you got?
Sure. Let me get my screen up. So, look, disabled screen share there.
Or should be good now.
Cool. So, yeah, like what I mentioned a bit ago was, cool. I think, do you guys see it?
Can you bump it up just a little bit?
How
Plus.
do I just like command plus?
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. How's that?
Cool.
All right. And okay. Um, my seed file, it's a lot.
Hmm.
I was stubborn. I should have just done half, but I wanted all these things in here.
All good.
Um, so I got all these players, session add all, the list of all the players,
Mhm.
commit. Much easier one here. Tournaments, 1, 2, 3. Add those three, commit, and then just like ungodly amounts of results. Um, and similar thing here. And so right in my SQLite Explorer,
Mhm.
I have everything looks good to me here, right, with my columns and whatnot and my tables.
Mhm.
But when I try to view any of these, right, it shows 1 to 0 of 0.
Mhm.
Doesn't actually show excuse me, the data that I'm hoping to see there.
Can we see what happens when you run that seed file?
Yeah. Saves and just do run it like Python run C.
You might need to do Python 3. Are you in your, oh, actually, close up the terminal, go back to your VS Code. Show you an easier way to do this. Hit Control back tick to bring up the little terminal in the bottom there. That should open it up from where you're at. Why is it not opening?
It's just my computer. I'm turn my camera off to hopefully free up something out of it there.
Uh,
Um, cool.
Sweet. And just do an ls in there to see. Great. So we should be able to go and lib there and do what you're going to do. I think you need to do pyenv run Python 3, the thing.
Um, like this one.
Yeah.
3 C dot.
Ls there. Where's your seed file?
Where is it?
It looks like it's inside.
DB. Yeah, there it is.
Cool. Just up arrow twice, should be, or 3 times.
Um,
Base is not defined. Okay, cool. Let's go to the top of the. Did we bring in base? Cool.
I just added it right there.
Let's try it again. Cool. Better errors. Um, let's see. Let's go all the way up to the top there. No column name determine name. Is that true? Let's see.
Where are we? Oh, right here.
Tournaments.
And let's see. Got there.
Tournament name, tournaments. Is there, can we look at that table in the SQLite Explorer down there? Can we see the tournaments table?
Table, players, something. There it is.
Yeah, it looks like tournaments is just tournaments name.
Name. Yeah,
Is that
I had it as name what feels like a long time ago, but
yeah, I think name is the right way to do that instead of tournament name because it's we already know it's on a tournament. Um, do you need to rerun your migrations and whatnot?
I think so. That's was kind of my question, but that is like that kind of confuses me
Mhm.
on what it's doing. Like obviously I did it a couple times.
Yeah, that's good. Uh,
uh
yeah, so
but
you just need to get the migrations to run and make sure the database format is the way that you need it there.
okay. Um cool. I need to just find what that line of code is in the labs. So I will unshare and let someone else ask while I look that up.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like most of your stuff is just getting everything lined up the right way. So yeah,
So that migrations, like should we basically run that just like I don't know, like a couple times a day as we're working on it, just to pull things in?
whenever you
Or
change the database setup,
okay, okay, cool,
yeah, once you've got a static setup, you're good.
cool. Thank you.
Who else has got stuff?
I have kind of a maybe a more basic question just about like best practices. Like, so I find as I'm going through and adding commands for functionality in my app, like the CLI file is getting longer and longer, um, which I think is just the nature of writing a CLI app. But I just want, are there best practices? Are there ways to split it up so there are, smaller like modules of the CLI file?
Yeah, so if you are, depends on how it's set up. Um, Basically, if you have classes or whatever you have it broken up into, you can put each of those in its own file and export/import those. Um,
Got it.
that's probably the easiest way to do it.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Makes sense.
Yeah, and that might require restructuring how it looks a little bit, but
Yep.
the general kind of setup that I've seen is like there's basically the runner that runs all the stuff, and then there's like the app part that handles all the models and all that. You can import that to the runner.
Yeah, makes sense.
What else we got?
I have a follow up. It says a command Alembic command not found when I do my upgrade or revision.
Are you running it in the pipenv run or pyenv?
No.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't want to write that in front of it every time, you can do pyenv shell, and that will kind of like pop you into a shell in that environment.
Okay.
But yeah, 601.
Yeah. I think I want to be a React developer.
Yeah. Unofficially, I think Python is not a great language for backend stuff. Lots of people disagree, but that is my opinion. Having used a whole bunch of different things for backend stuff, or I think that there are other Python setups that are easier. Um, I'm not sure why this one was chosen for real, but yeah. There are advantages and disadvantages for sure, and part of it's just getting used to Python's way of doing stuff. Cool. What else we got?
So I've been taking a look at that one project Maddox said about the teacher review and stuff. It looks super cool, by the way.
Mhm.
I guess it's kind of helping me get an understanding. Like I said earlier, it's kind of like a super old school, like Final Fantasy, where you just got the menu and there's not so much. There is interaction, but it's more text-based interaction.
Yep.
I feel like that's just really throwing me off because like I'm so used to seeing just like, oh, there's the website. Oh,
Right.
cool. That's what changed. That's what we're working on. I feel like that's really just kind of throwing me off, and I just need to dive into it.
Yeah, so I think the kind of shift that you need to make for your thinking on that is like a website is like, here are all your options basically on one page. Here's all the stuff you can click. Here's all the stuff you can look at. Here are, you can pull stuff from a drop down. You can put stuff in a box. You can navigate to different pages and all that. So that's like our GUI interface, and our command line interface is more like, here's a prompt, reply to this prompt. So it was like, oh, I want to, it'll, and give it options like you were saying, like, oh, I want to add a new add a new listing. I want to show all the listings. I want to search for a listing. You pick, one, two, or three, and then do that thing. It's like, cool, put in what you want to search for, and then it'll do the database state there and return it as a list. Yeah, so it's more of a, and this is actually what the the core of what like most game development looks like. You mentioned that the Final Fantasy stuff, where instead of having like a page, even if you do have like a page of options, and this is how browsers work under the hood too, there's this core loop that's basically just waiting for you to give it input. And so like with a browser, the core loop is like, hey, has anyone clicked anything or typed anything? If so, let me handle that. Uh, your loop here is going to be very simpler. It's going to be like, oh, I'm going to ask a question of the user to see what part of the functionality they want to use, and then each one of those might be like, okay, cool. Now I want to get the search term, or get the information for the record it wants to add, or get whatever it wants to delete. So kind of resetting to, instead of I'm just picking stuff from a page, to I have to offer a list of options that the user can choose from and wait for their input, and then process that input, and then continue on that way. It's just like kind of turning your thoughts inside out there. But once you get used to it, it becomes pretty easy. It's just that shift, the initial shift is a little bit tough, I think. Once you do that, you can be like, once it clicks, you're just like, I can do so many things. I only want to do command line apps now. But yeah, I think your Final Fantasy analogy is a really good one. Like, didn't cast a spell. Great. Which spell do you want to cast? Pick that one. Attack. Who do you want to attack? Just keeping that loop going. What other questions do we have, or stuff we want to look at?
I had another question based off the project I was looking at from the old one.
Mhm.
So I try to follow, like, they're like, get it set up, run it.
Mhm.
But I was very unsuccessful. So is there like a proper way to do this, or to like see a past project? Like, I feel like, is it because I'm on Windows?
It shouldn't matter that you're on Windows. Either way. What kind of troubles were you having with it?
So let me see. Let me pull up there. If I just don't have it open. I don't have it open. Let me go find it real quick. Okay, so it pretty much tells me to clone it and then navigate to the directory, do pipe nav install and shell, and then go ahead and navigate to the libdb. Oh, I think I stopped there. And then hold on, this one, other steps.
Let me see. Do we have? Would it help to just kind of like walk through what is on Canvas there for the CLI template stuff? Like get get how that the basic stuff is set up there.
Or
Just for like getting the general loop of the CLI app set up.
sure. I mean, it can't hurt.
Let me see. Can I share that window? Yes. There. Nope. That's there we go. Cool. So can you see that okay? I don't know if I'm sharing the right thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So basically we have this this is the format they recommend. There's no right way or wrong, there's no right or wrong way to do it, just what you prefer. It's probably good to follow the structure they give you to start off with. But if you find that a different way feels better, feel free to change it as you go along. Yeah. So basically, we are going to have all the stuff in lib like we have been having. Our CLI is going to be the main thing that you run, and that's going to import all the other stuff. So great. So if we did that, great. So database stuff we already covered. This will be all the stuff that's sitting in DB. So that'll be your models, that'll be your migrations, that'll be your seed file, all that stuff there. So we've see the last couple days working on that. I guess just yesterday. So once you get all your database stuff set up, and the cool thing about it is the cool thing about the way that this is organized is that kind of like Wes was asking, your like your database models, those are all completely separate from your application. So you set up your models with SQL Alchemy, and they don't care if they're being used in a CLI app or a I have a robot trying to break into my room. They don't care if it's being used with a CLI app or with a web app, Flask, or the phone app or whatever. The models are separate. They do their own thing, and you can use them wherever you want. So the tricky bit for us, because this is all brand new, is the CLI script. And that's basically just saying, well, let's walk through it. So helpers, these are, you can put a bunch of stuff in here. I think, let me see, do I have it there? Yeah. So I don't think it's going to have anything in it, but yeah, these are all empty. Boo. Yeah. But basically this is where all your kind of like functions are going to live, your that are going to use all the other stuff, and or that will be used by all the other stuff and use each other. So you can import them by name here. So the main thing here is, and this is the part that's like, if you're running this, this is your application, run this part. And this is the part where you're going to be running all these things. So this is, oh wow, this is really, really bad. really, really unclear. So here's our main loop here is what we care about. So actually like that. So we print our opening banner, welcome to the thing. If there's stuff we want to set up, we'd run a function. So that might be I don't know. If there's some cleanup / setup you need to do for your application, that's where you would do that. Maybe you don't have anything like that. Or maybe printing the initial menu. But that I would probably do that here, where, yeah, that's really unclear. So I would probably have something like running equals false, and then say while running, and then that's going to run this stuff while the variable running is true. And then somewhere in here, we say like, oh, display the menu, and then the response would be whatever comes back from the menu. We would maybe do a Python switch. Maybe we do something that says oh, depending on what they chose from the menu, do a different function here or here. Maybe one of those menu items is quit, and you'd say, oh, if you're calling the quit function, then that's what's going to set running to false, and then this while loop will end, and you get to break out into whatever cleanup you have there. This is a super super abstract and not super useful setup here, I think. Does that help at all, or is that just kind of me jabbering?
No, it kind of helped because my whole thing was like, I kind of, it's more just the vision. It's like, but I pretty much know what I want to do.
Mhm.
Like for like, I can't. It's clearer. I'll say that.
Yeah, cool. And everything else is just like doing all the stuff that we've been doing up to this point, writing functions, hitting the database stuff, all that, and all the stuff is basically just can live in, these are awful names for functions, and I think this is a bad example because it encourages you to name those. But the functions be like show menu, insert user, quit application, whatever. All those are going to be written and kept in your helpers file. And those are just going to be like plain old Python and or reading and writing to a database. And I think this is the tricky part to get your head around, the core loop here. And yeah, I mean, you might even want to just stub this out, like forget all the model and database stuff, and just like try to get that loop working, and just like have like, oh, here's a menu with 3 items, A, B, and C, and A will print out hello, B will print out what's up, C3 will exit, and just try and get that kind of skeleton working, and then start adding in the actual functionality. Or you can do the other way around and write all your functionality, all the bits and pieces that you think you need to use, and then you can use the debug file kind of like we've been doing it here, just exercising all the things and seeing if they work at all. Or you can do like vertical thin slices, which basically means picking one feature from your user stories and saying, okay, cool, I want to list all the players. And so just getting that one thing to work all the way up and down the stack. So that would mean getting that loop running, being able to select, or not even getting the loop running, like being able to list stuff from the command line when you run it. And then you're like, okay, cool. Next thing I want to do is list all the tournaments. And so that means I need to add a menu, which means I need to be able to choose between looking at all the players and looking at all the tournaments. So that means I need to do that loop, or maybe not even a loop at that point, because you're just choosing between two things. You're going to input and choose A or B, and then do each of those things and end the program. And then think about like, oh, cool, I want the user to be able to continue to do stuff. So just picking one feature and doing the minimum amount of work to get that feature working that's kind of my favorite way to do it. Unless it's something I'm like super familiar with, then I'll just like, cool, I'll do all the database stuff, I'll do all the functionality stuff. But that's I rarely know what I'm doing. So defining my stories and then working kind of one at a time is the way that I found to be most useful for me. Other people have different preferences. Cool. I don't think there's anything else useful in here. Cool. What other questions do we have? What other stuff you're working on?
I have one thing on what you were just talking about with like the CLI file versus helpers file. I'm pretty much just writing everything in my helpers file. Like in my CLI, I just said if name equals main, then go to like the main menu, and then it just goes through my helpers file.
Yeah, that's
And
totally
that's
fine.
easier for me to read. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and like the main helper could be like do the initial stuff instead of the menu, and everything just lives in helpers then. That's totally
Yeah,
fine.
that's what I'm
Yeah. I took a look at the project we were talking about, the student teacher review one, and that's how they have it set up. But that helper file is 574 lines long.
That's why I was terrified of this project.
Which at a certain point, it gets a little unwieldy, and then maybe you want to break it into like, oh, I have I have a file that's just like menu.py, and that has the menu options, and I import that. I have one that has like the database functionality. That's like read write display students, or maybe like a student functionality file, and just have the things in there. It's not any different functionality wise, but and there's even sections in here. They're like, oh, here's all the student stuff, here's all the teacher stuff, here's all the menu stuff, and it's just kind of like separated by comments, and that would kind of be a smell to me that says, oh, like if there's 4 or 5 big chunks of functionality in this 600 line file, maybe I'll pull those out, because I know if I keep working on this, it's just going to get longer, and I'm going to have to scroll up and down the whole thing to find what's what. But yeah, if you have everything on the file, works just the same. It's just harder to think about, harder to debug, harder to modify. So I prefer breaking things into what part of the functionality they're related to. And there's no hard and fast rule. Like it could be, oh, these are all the things that the student uses, and here's all the things that the teachers uses, or here's all the things that read to the database. Here's all the things that delete from the database. How you break it up is totally up to you. Again, as rule 2, whatever makes sense to you, whatever makes sense when you're debugging or adding stuff to it, changing it. But yeah, if you want to just have all the stuff in one file, totally cool, as long as it works. I definitely in my earlier years was a put everything in one big file person, and looking back, like, oh, I could have done like 2, 3, 4, or 5 times as much stuff if I had not been jumping up and forth in that big file. But oh, younger days. Yeah. What other questions do we have? Or what else are we working on that we got stuck on?
I've got another one.
Yeah.
So first question has been solved. But what
You
is now
understand working?
happening, I think, leads into what another prepared question is. I was looking through the project. I'm like, why is everyone doing these delete queries? Like, why do we want to delete
Mhm.
data? But now that my tables are showing up, they have duplicates, and then the ones that are referencing IDs are referencing the duped IDs.
Are you so if you're running a seed file, one important thing to keep in mind is you probably want to delete everything out of your tables before you add the seeds in, so that you only have one copy of the seeds in.
Okay.
At the top of your
Yeah.
I'll just say, like, delete everything from all the tables in whatever way makes sense for you.
Okay, so it basically goes like when it runs the seed file, it goes, hey, just wipe them out
Mhm.
and then add everything below it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because I was like logically looking at, yeah, like the other projects, and I'm like, why would you want to delete your data? Like, I need that data. And I'm like, everyone did it. It obviously means something. And
Yeah, and
this
it
is,
makes sense if you're like, oh, I'm adding appointments. You want to give someone the opportunity to cancel an appointment.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, for mine, for example, I'm like, I don't want, this is kind of a set data set.
Yeah. Once you get your setup done, like, you can run your seed file once and then never
Yeah.
have to touch it again.
That's the plan for today.
Cool. Yeah, and then next up, depends on what you want to work on. Cool. Anything else?
I have a more like scope of the project question, I guess. For my MVP, should I think I should focus on putting in all of the stuff that we need to have for the requirements.
Mhm.
And then, making the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Because this is already insane. So I guess I'm like, I was thinking that I should prioritize that kind of stuff, but I'm just kind of checking in to make sure.
Yeah. And so let's see, what are our things? We want a CLI application that solves a real world problem, whatever. So we want a CLI application, period. We want a database that has a few tables, a well-maintained virtual environment, whatever. Package structure, and then use of list, sticks, and tuple. Like, you're going to be using those if you're using data. So, like, that's not really an explicit. The main 2 things are you have a CLI application that uses a database, and that's pretty much it. And once you get that done, the world is your oyster.
Okay, so yeah, I can
Yeah,
do the insane part, and we'll see how far I get. But
those last 3 things are because they're like, we can't just put 2. Like, and if that's all you're looking for, but yeah. Did that answer what you're asking?
Yes.
Cool. Sweet. Anyone want to talk about anything else?
I'm still like fuzzy on what it actually looks like to interact with.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure it's a case of like it's so simple that it's confusing me.
Mhm.
Um,
Let me take a look. You have your Grand Slam results, right? So you have 3 user stories, it looks like. Search for a player's name and get a list of their results for each of this year's Grand Slam tournaments. So search for a player's name and return the data. Search by tournament name and see the first and second place players, and then search by tournament result and see the players that have that result for each tournament. Cool. So that sounds pretty I'm not going to say simple, but it's pretty focused, it feels like. If you're only doing those 3 things, instead of like just show me a list of all the players or just show me a list of all the tournaments or add a new tournament or whatever. Yeah, I might encourage you to add something after this, but basically the way it's going to look is you run your CLI program. It'll come up with some intro thing like welcome to the Grand Slam, whatever. Pick one of these 3 things, and then you list those options. A, B, C, or D, 1, 2, or 3, and then in your loop you're asking for input from the user. After you display those, they will put in 1, 2, or 3 or ABC or player tournament result, whatever, however you want to set the menu. And then you'll look at their response and say, cool, if they picked 1, then I want to say, okay, cool, search for a player's name. Like put a prompt that says enter the player's name. And then it will, when they hit return, it'll show those results. And you might want a 4th one on your 4th option on the menu that's like 4 quit. And then watch for those 4 options, do the prompts for each of those, display the data for those prompts, and if it's a quit, then exit the program. And that's pretty. So what it looks like is running the program. Here's a list. It shows you a list of options that you can do. They put in one of the options, whatever option they chose. It'll put in the prompt next. So player name, tournament name, result name, and then it'll, when they hit return, display that stuff, and then go back to displaying the main menu of options, which includes exit. And then when they say exit, you exit out. Does that
So
a little bit?
it's again, it's just, it was like, it's a type of app I haven't interacted with, and it's like so simple because it's like the first type of app that I'm like overcomplicating it. But as far as like an extra piece, right? Because I basically have 3 of the same kind of functionalities. I could do like an ad, right?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be more tournaments. So like doing allowing the user to add data to the base would suffice. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Yeah. Cool. Who else got stuff? Feeling all right so far? Cool. If no one else has anything, we can close it up here. Feel free to post in the channel with questions. Because if you have a question, I'm sure you're not the only one. Cool. Yeah, I'll post this up. I'm not sure how useful it'll be to anyone else besides the people here, but just for posterity's sake. And cool. Last call before we shut it down. All right. Good luck. Holler in the channel if you got a question, and I'll see you in a little bit.